switch the scenes over, and theoretically, we should be live on the Twitch. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I've got a brand new microphone set up, so we're going to see how much trouble that gets me into. We're going to test it live. We're testing in production because that's the only responsible thing to do. I'm Nate Shute. I'm your host here today on Between Share and Keyword. I am delighted to have the one and only Viktor Gamov with us here today, who I'm quite certain is the strongest developer advocate. I don't know. Do you think anybody can challenge you on that?
Yeah, I knew pretty, few people who can try to challenge
Really?
this.
I mean, because
Yeah, I do.
because
Yeah.
you're pretty hardcore. I've seen your workouts of the day on Twitter, and I get tired just looking at them.
Well, yeah. I mean, it happens. It depends of what you're trying to train. So it's really. I'm just trying to see if we actually live, so we can tweet about this.
I mean, theoretically we
Uh,
are, but I mean, I don't know how the gods work in the this
oh,
environment.
yeah. I see. I see. We're going
Are we
live. That's
there?
pretty cool.
Well, that's always a
Yeah.
win. See, you're a lot more professional at this than I am. We were talking about your setup before we started here today, and you definitely have this more lined up than I do. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. I finally got all this mic stuff towards the end of last week, and this is my first chance to experiment. So my guess is that it's either going to be great or it's going to be terrible. So we'll we'll
That's gonna
we'll
be
work it out.
awesome. That's the only way how we can test.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not about destination. It's about journey and having
Right.
fun along the way. I also didn't figure this out from the first day. I went through the cycle of mistakes, failures, tweaking, like we discussed like in the pre-show, that it's never gonna be final setup. Never. It's
There's
always gonna be something. Yeah.
there's always rooms to tweak, always new toys to add, to say the least. Right.
Exactly. New toys to tweak, new technology to try. And, we are like naturally, like we geeks, we like to explore the thing and see how the things will work. So this is why, like, I know some people that will be feel very frustrated and stressed out if they will just like unpack the microphone and say, hey, just do a live stream with it.
Yeah.
So some
Well,
people don't do that. They just think it's like it's crazy.
what could
They're
possibly go
afraid. Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah,
Many things
but
could go wrong. We'll find out.
I think it's kind of like, since we're talking a little bit about sport here,
Yeah.
and it's like when the sport, you're not going on the first day into Olympics.
Right. Right.
Olympics is just another milestone that show off your like preparation, your because you can go to gym, you can fail there, it's fine, you can back with some of the knowledge what you did wrong and try to do this differently. Same thing with, I think it's with everything in life, in life and job and some other things, in my opinion, because that's how I like to approach the problem of life. That's like you can do in fitness. You're not going and getting like good times. You're enjoying this. You're enjoying the pain. You're doing leg day. You're just like squatting
Rinse too.
like 315 pounds, and you expecting to get some of the tickling in your stomach. No, it's gonna be extremely painful. And 2 days after, it would be even worse. However, it makes you stronger. So the next time, it will not that painful. And the next time, you will get more and more and more. So that's why, like, if you fail with something like this, like with the setup, like do not stress out. There would be another opportunity to try it out. So
Absolutely. It's a constant experimentation. That's what we're here for.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so Viktor, thanks for joining us here today. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background? What do you do? How'd you get into this game? I can see you're a movie fan by based on your extremely well set up home office. Unlike mine, mine's just a mess. I haven't gotten that all worked out yet.
But
Eventually.
hey, you have a more books. You have a more books written by you than I have books written by me. So
Yeah, it's trade-offs, trade-offs.
yes, I work as developer advocate in a company called Confluent. We are building streaming platform based on open source Apache Kafka.
Nice.
It's
Got the
our
shirt.
jazz. We got to contribute to open source Apache Kafka. We build the best and the best and the best cloud offering. Like not only Kafka, there's some other like nice serverless and cloud native things that we also support there. And actually, I was yeah, right now I'm officially developer advocate. I have this in my business card, or like you can say this since I'm doing like YouTube and live streams, like
Yeah.
lower third, like card that's saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
Victor's developer advocate." I don't have it today, but I definitely have it in a different in the speaking about setups. So I was it's actually my first official, like first company that I have this official title of
Sure.
developer advocate and DevRel type of person. Before that, I was just undercover. I was doing like a pre-sales and post-sales jobs, and but I was there in the conferences speaking
Sure.
about technologies and meetups and things like that. A friend of mine, Baruch, he called me undercover DevRel because I was doing this without getting official title.
I
Now,
like that. I like that undercover DevRel. I'm gonna have to try to use that. That's a
yeah,
nice phrasing.
some of the conferences, as you might know, they not accepting developer advocates or developer evangelists because they're
Right.
not practitioners. So that's why it actually works very well. Like if you are like architect or
Right.
or engineer or like something like that,
Undercover dev
solutions.
advocate.
Yeah,
That should be a new
yeah,
show. Maybe we should try to get that as a streaming show. Yeah.
undercover, and we will be. We need to. It's going to be like when we get back to travel, we can do this like a reality show.
Right.
So we're
Right.
going to be doing some of the the undercover stuff on the conferences. So that would be
See,
that would be
I
cool.
don't blend in. There's no way for me to blend in. This big red blotch on my face kind of stands out, no matter how much of a beard
I
I'm
cannot
sporting.
blend in. Like I'm 6'5"
No.
and 235 pounds. I cannot just like physically, just like
Right.
it's just what the hell this like what is that? Like who's this guy?
I say it again.
Oh,
I'm convinced you're the strongest guy in DevRel. I really am. I mean, I've seen your workouts, man. I know what you're doing.
we need to do this kind of like that's maybe another show when we can do the fitness in
Right.
depth.
Working out with Victor. Keep yourself in shape.
I did this for Kafka Summit this year. As a matter of fact, we did this. We're doing this conference where it's like a community event. We're bringing like all the people who doing something about
Yeah.
Kafka, and one of the like segments, because everything was in uh, work from home type of show, right?
Right.
And we did this like everyone from did this from home and did this remote and things like that. And I did the segment where I was actually showing people some exercises, how they can go and stretch and uh, get their blood flowing a little bit. Some of the my favorite exercises. And after that, I also released the version of kind of like outtakes and bloopers. Speaking about movies, I'm kind of like a Jackie Chan fan, like old
Okay.
school. And if you ever watched any Jackie Chan movie, at the end, he has like this
Right.
outtakes, like the stunts went wrong type of things. I love that. And once you're watching this and remembering how the flawless was certain episode with some stunts and how the
Sure.
things they were done, and after that you seen how many takes it took them to the Jackie Chan like drop from like 3 floors, and after that there's like glass and there's
Hmm.
some guys start pinching him, and you start getting appreciation. Some same thing I did for my show, because I did this in the public, like in a park, and there was some people like running around. There's some guy who's working out right in my shot. So
Zoom
when I
bombed you.
was yeah, yeah, exactly. So that was fun. And yeah, my movies is, I even like some of my demos include movies. I
Of
like to
course.
talk about this, and it's
Do-
my
What's your favorite movie? Is it one on the wall behind you, or is it something else?
um my favorite movie. So on the wall and behind me, it's you see the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Uh, they were released on April 27th and April 26th, like two years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. It's my birthday, April 26th in person. And
Awesome.
yeah, I watched this, and in in where I watched them.
In a
I watched them
theater.
like
We
was
used to leave our
yeah,
houses and be with
exactly.
other
Yes.
people.
In different countries. As a matter of fact, like I was traveling. I was traveling and watching this. My favorite movie. This is a very good question. My favorite movie, probably I need to think about this. Some of the things around the movies from like 90s. I am kind of like a VHS kid. I grew up with this the bootleg versions of American B-list action movies. Some of the um, like movies like Lethal Weapon,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
like Die Hard.
Mm. Die
Those
Hard is a
those
Christmas movie.
yes, it is.
Unequivocally. We're heading into the
Yes,
holiday season, and Die Hard is unequivocally a holiday movie.
same way as Lethal Weapon as well.
Yeah, totally.
Even though it's Los Angeles, there's not much snow, and the both movies they happened in California, so
Right. Which doesn't
and this
count.
is why, yeah. But they are both Christmas movies. Um, yeah, it's very hard to pick. I think there's some of, like you said, some of the movies that I like in the comedy world, probably like Police Academy,
Oh yeah.
Naked Gun, this type of the movies that I watched in childhood, maybe like not the thousands times, hundreds times. Like
Right.
I know exactly how they sound. And in Russia at the time, they were like weird. There was no dubbing. There was no fucking professional translation.
Uh-huh.
There was like a bootleg version of the guy that sounded like he has a like a like this sound. And rumor has it, or legend, the urban legend says that the guy was trying to hide his voice from the KGB because it was illegal. He
Oh,
was doing like a pirating stuff, but no, he's
okay.
just like the way he was
It's just how
talking.
he
It's kind of
talks.
like, yeah, it's a
Oh,
story about the no one can catch Joe.
okay.
There was a cab boy. No one can catch Joe, not because no one can catch him, because no one care about him. So the same thing was with this guy.
Nice.
But I still remember how those jokes sound, and like I'm like to rewatching some of these movies. And
Sure.
uh, now where I know English pretty well, that I don't watch movies in with translation or dubbing and
Right.
things like that. So that's pretty awesome. And again, Jackie Chan movies,
Mm.
the the I know exactly how they were called in Russian, but I need to Google and see what's their original name, because
Sure. Sure.
when they're coming with the translation, some translators can go like extra creative about translation, and they can come up with something that 100% kind of depict what happens in the movie,
Sure.
but it's not 100% exact translation of it. So I don't know. Uh, I would say like out the spot, the Dark Knight trilogy
Oh yeah.
by Christopher Nolan,
Yeah. Yeah.
specifically Batman Begins and Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much the Dark Knight Rises, just like not up to the quality of
Okay.
the first two. But I think that's kind of movie that I can watch like regardless. Like um, if I'm, how you call it, um, like right now we have this like a doom scrolling when we
Yes.
go into the phones. But
Right.
before that, before the phones, we just like switching the channels, like
Yeah.
the
Channel surfing.
uh,
Yeah.
channel surfing. Yeah,
Yep.
doom channel surfing. And you see there's either Batman Begins
Right.
or Dark Knight. Just like, okay, give up all the things, just sit there and
But
watch.
see,
I
well, there are movies like
Yeah,
that, right? Where if
yes,
you're scrolling along and you see it, and you're like, all right, I'm in.
yeah,
And there's some movies. It doesn't matter how far into the movie it is. You're like, I'm good. I'm
yeah.
gonna watch it till the end. And
I
it's
can watch Pulp Fiction. This is the type of the movie that I can watch like anytime. And every time when I watch it, I can find something new. I can
right.
find some of the details, some of the uh, maybe not so much Easter egg, but
Sure.
something that I haven't seen before. Or I've seen this, but I didn't pay attention, because for me it's a different culture, and I kind of learning some of the things, some of the references while watching
Sure.
the movie.
Oh, sure.
Some for the local people, for the people who grew up in this culture, some of the reference would be like simple, and they can catch up this very quickly. For me, I feel actually very good about myself when I kind of the Captain America style for the first Avengers. Oh, I understood this reference. um so the this type of stuff. And now I'm talking too much about movies. Sorry.
No, well, it's funny you bring up cliches because we tend to forget about that. That so many of them are very cultural, and I do think about that when I'm giving a presentation. because I create my presentations as an American, living in the United States, and I always have to remind myself when I'm doing that presentation somewhere else, it might not translate. There might not that
Yeah,
concept might not be there, and I'm always amazed when we do these presentations in a country where English is not the dominant language, and everybody's still following along, and I feel so bad about
yeah,
my lack of being able to speak other languages. But I remember having this conversation with an organizer, and I said, "Hey, if you're ever in my neck of the woods," and he's like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Oh, if you ever find yourself, in Minnesota, like let me know and we'll hang out." And it's things like
yeah.
that you don't think about, that they're idioms that are in the culture that are just in the air. And yeah, it's it's it's
Exactly.
it's
That's
it's like pop culture
100%
references. Same
spot
deal.
on. Yeah.
My
With the Go ahead.
I was gonna say we're part of our coping mechanism for being stuck at home is we're watching a lot of streaming TV, right? And so we're
Yeah.
taking my son through Friends right now, which I grew up with. Obviously, it was an important part of my young adulthood. I guess I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how old I was when Friends came out, but I
Yeah,
forgot
25
how
years 25
funny
years
they
ago.
were.
Yep.
Right? It's sad. It's when you go like, oh, it's 25. Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm getting older. But
And now thank you, Victor, for reminding me how old I am.
thank you, Victor. Yes, the young, strong dev advocate reminding the older, weaker dev advocate how old he is. But it's you forget about how many of these cultural references are in there, and just these phrases that you say that you don't realize. Oh yeah, that's from that show that's 20 years ago, and if you didn't
Yeah,
watch it, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
right. Exactly. That's why I think some of the one of the movies the movies that can survive over the years, the movies that have very strong um writing, first of all. Many movies, they rely on pop culture references
Yeah,
a lot, so they will, in my opinion, will die out very quickly, comparing to some of the comedies that based on pop culture references versus comedies that based on some like practical jokes or
right.
some of the known segments. So for example, like if you watch Monty Python, or if you
Yeah,
watch any movie by Mel Brooks,
sure,
there are some pop culture references, but they subtle, and the humor. Like if I would watch with my son, he will find the like Man in Tights, for example. He will find this funny because there's a lot of like physical humor. There's a lot of like humor around like situations, and especially it's also maybe sometimes it's difficult for some people because there's some also the word twisting jokes. They kind of, you need to
sure,
understand meaning of certain words in order to catch up this reference. Like if you want the Men in Tights, if you want the Spaceballs, um, there's references around like Star Wars, or
sure,
because Star Wars right now it's kind of considered as a it's like it was so well known as a classic book, or like because like there's Robin Hood, which is classic book, versus Star Wars. Um, Comparing to some other like profanity comedies that I grew up watching. Some of the like a new age thing, like a scary movie, like the first one. Like the
yeah,
first one was really good, but there's also like tons of references. If you haven't watched Scream original one, you
right,
might not pick up.
right,
But the Scream was also pop cultural. Also, like if you think about this, it's 25 years ago. Like
right.
all this, the childhood crush, like Sarah Michelle Gellar, or some. She's yeah, she's she's an she still looking good. She
Right.
feels great, but it was like tons of time ago. Like
Right.
same thing with the Friends.
Right.
There's some of the jokes, especially like my favorite, like all time. Like I watch this every year. I'm not gonna get tired, and my wife don't like when I do this. It's coming. It's a Thanksgiving episode.
Hmm.
I'm watching this like every year. I know this by heart.
Right.
I know the jokes about there's actually two Thanksgiving episodes. One was with Brad Pitt, another one with
Mm.
the turkey that
This
Joe
one,
was eating.
yeah.
And I watch them. I love them, and it's just like, and it's so good. It creates that you know the warm
Yes.
fuzzy feeling, the
Yes.
times where like everything was maybe different. So that's why the nostalgia in
Mhm.
pop culture these days is so, I don't know, like it's getting some like 80s, and the references to 80s and 90s getting come back. Like you see like Stranger Things,
Sure.
and some other shows that I, I, they exploit this, right?
Oh, right, of course.
Um, so, and yeah, that's very good. Like this is something that creates this connection, and they try to, I guess, like carry this to for generations, so the other generations will also will understand like what the hell they talking about, like what's this about, like, and stuff. So
Well, and I'm curious. I mean, I know we're getting a bit of far afield, but I think these are interesting things to chat about. There was for a long time the standard cultural touchstones. I think about when like Friends and ER were airing live, or you can go back even further and talk about like Hill Street Blues or MASH or something like that. It was a cultural touch point, and you knew that everybody you were going to run into, whether that was at school or at work the next day, they watched that show last night.
yep.
We don't really have that now, in the sense that people watch them whenever. I mean, like my son, he's 13. He doesn't really have this concept of a network television schedule, because he's
Yep.
either watched things on the DVR or watched things that were streamed. And so this idea of you had to wait how long until the next episode came out? And so I'm curious to
Yeah,
see what that does when you find a situation where we don't have sort of those similar things to sort of lean back on.
I can 100% relate, and I think this is where this stuff brings me closer to your generation, even you consider me a little much younger. But I came from Russia. We grew up,
Sure,
we are getting older much younger. So
sure.
if you don't have a kids by age 21, something is wrong with you. It's a cultural thing. But I 100% can remember times where like Disney cartoons like DuckTales,
Yes,
the Rescue Rangers, some like Tailspin, and some others, they were airing only on Saturday morning, and you cannot understand disappointment when you wake up on the Saturday morning. You were waiting for this like whole week, and for some reason, like this network television program was outdated in your newspaper,
sure.
and you did know the cartoon would not air, and there would be some of the, I don't know, like there was like two popular popular TV shows that were airing at the same time. It was the TV show where the two guys, they were like playing on this the accordion, and they were traveling from different villages, and they find the people who playing this like this musical instrument. Or there would be some of the the like some of the preacher, like a Saturday morning preacher show,
Okay.
and you cannot express this like disappointment. And my kids don't know this. Now they
Right,
want to
right.
watch the cartoons. There's a ton of it. Like
Instant.
you want to watch rewatch it and things like that. I
Right.
had to record. I had to VCR, and I had to
Like an
choose if I
animal.
want to. I need to choose what to erase if I want to record new one.
Right,
There
right.
was like a strong the conversation said, okay, so like should I, because I cannot buy a new tape. To buy a new tape, I don't literally need to get in the car and drive somewhere, stay in the line, and buy new VCR,
Right, right. Yeah,
VHS
tape.
cassette. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I can
there's
relate to that. I remember I don't remember what the show was, but my wife and I had HBO, and my in-laws didn't. And my father-in-law really wanted the show, and so every week we'd record it for him, and we'd record however many you could fit on a tape, and it was always a bit of a, oh man, we got to remember to record, and I think back to now, and it's like, wait, what? Like you had to press a button? I was just like, record this, or better yet, just
yeah,
stream this now.
yeah, yeah.
The kids these
I don't know
days,
if it's
Victor.
good or bad. It's different.
Yeah,
They might have their struggles that we don't understand, and it will, build them. I was watching this the stand-up show where there was a like cool. As a matter of fact, like I use stand-up not as just like a watching. I watch them to learn how to be, better public speaker, how
100%.
to work with audience, how to read the audience, like where to land the joke, where to, how to properly, time it. and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So it's my personal kind of advice, or like apart from the like reading the presentation patterns like all the time. That's my one of the favorite books.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I watch like stand up comedy, and where was one of the jokes. I don't remember who was that. But there was a joke like, you kids, you he was supposed to be like rebellious against like the older generation, but like she was making a point that this like new generation is more soft. He said, you were not supposed to be liking our music and making remix of it. You're supposed to hate it, because like I was watching some of the comedies from 80s, and when the people would, I was watching this, like, I think it's a pretty good movie called Blind by the Lights.
Okay.
And it was a story about the Pakistani guy in London in 80s, and he opened the Bruce Springsteen from himself.
Okay.
And when he was trying to talk about this with his classmates, like, no, it's this type of music that your dad is listening. But there was like I don't know, like 5 years difference between this and the. So yeah, they might have their own like struggles in
Right.
life and with this period, and understanding things. But for me, I'm enjoying this time because some of the things that were not accessible that time now accessible.
Sure.
Like I'm rewatching, for example, Stargate
Yeah.
SG-1
Sure.
was an incredible show. I remember I was watching this. I was watching this with some, yeah, again, translation, things like that. But it was kind of like a moment where TV shows were different. You have
Sure.
a 20 episodes per season, 20 episodes, and they were good. There was
Mm-hmm.
like not so many fillers. um and like it was 10 seasons. It was the longest the sci-fi TV show, like if you're not counting a Star Trek as a whole,
Sure.
because
Sure.
there's multiple seasons
Right.
and
Right.
different shows and different crews and things like that. And yeah, now I can watch it because it's available. Same thing with Babylon 5. I was watching this like every episode, like religiously. I was waiting this, and like if I would need to go somewhere, I need to either record or ask someone to record, and I figure out how my VCR will work with timer, for example. That's how driven I was. I learned how to program my VCR to record this. Um, and you need to also need to put some buffer, because you don't know there would be some commercial before, some
Right.
commercial
Right.
after, and things like that. You need to time this properly, otherwise you just cut on the some of the, like, you will have a natural cliffhanger
Right.
without knowing what the hell is
Like,
going
oh
on there
no,
in
I
the
missed
episode.
3 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, that's life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. One of the things that gets frustrating for me is you set up a recording on like a DVR or something, and you hope that the software just does its thing, but then that program comes on after Sunday afternoon football or something, and so it gets pushed out just
Yeah.
enough that you catch 15 minutes of the show. And before we had all the ubiquitous streaming, you're like, oh my god, now what are my options? And so
Yeah.
see, I mean,
Yeah.
the kids these days, they don't know how good they have it, Victor.
Exactly.
I'm curious to see
That's
what
great.
the walking uphill both ways to school in the snow is going to be for my kids' generation.
I guess when the Zoom now is down and Skype is down, so this is new, school,
The
the
world's
snow days.
over,
So,
right?
yep.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's how this will work, at least for now.
So I'm sure we could definitely talk about TV, I'm sure, but so how did you get into software? How did you become, a DevRel guy? What brought you into this crazy world?
Yeah. So it's also started with the, not necessity, but I would say like curiosity and inability to get myself a computer. So I started, like, I've seen the computer, it's cool, it looks like very interesting, and I also learned that my aunt, she used computers at work,
Okay.
and one day she even was able to took us to her work, and we discovered there's some games. I think this is how was my one of my first the like memories
Hmm.
of computers in the software. In school, I started learning how, the like school, like it was kind of like a middle school, I guess. If translate to, yes, it was like a
Hmm.
fifth or sixth grade
Sure.
in Russian. And I started learning basic, like the programming language, but it was like basic, like you writing instructions in Russian. No jokes.
Wow.
Um, After that, we start getting more modern computers. We got the uh, I don't know. There was some of the program of like a modernization of the schools, and I lived in kind of like a rural um, setting, and we got the computers in our world. It was like something cool. It was the Intel I 486, I guess,
Okay.
and I was doing like some graphics stuff. After that, we got some of the like a little bit better computers. They were running Windows 2000, and it was already Pentium, like the Pentium processor, Pentium 3. And there's like already like graphic user interface. You
Oh,
can
sure.
play music, and some of the things that I somehow convinced my parents to buy me a computer. And like in terms of like a software, in terms of hacking around, I think my first hacking around was I figured it out how to change. So there was a game, that Unreal Tournament, 1999. No, 1999. It was like Unreal, just Unreal, just not the tournament. Um, and when I get the Unreal Tournament, I was able to debug and figure out the save file, like the file where you progress, and how to like hack it.
Oh, heck
So you'll
yeah.
have like you have a progress, like immediate progress up to the last boss. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And um like apart from that, I'm gonna start learning some of the like a programming thing, like the Pascal, I guess was my first um kind of language.
Okay.
And after that, I went to university to learn like a formal computer science.
Okay.
And the thing about this the thing about this is that for some reasons we were expected, like when you go there, that you already know some programming language.
Oh, sure.
It I don't know, like why was that requirement? Even though when we were like writing exams to enter there, there was only math, Russian language, and something else like mm, I forgot, math, Russian, or something else. I forgot.
Okay.
Physics. Yeah, there was
Oh,
a physics.
physics. Oh, yeah.
So, and we started learning like C++, and this is how it goes, and rest is history. I guess on my third year in university, I already started making money by being kind of professional, like a software engineer somehow. So I was first of all helping to administer. Um, so essentially, they were building the system that were controlling the electricity, like devices that will counting your electricity.
Oh, sure.
And the
Yeah.
cool thing
The
about this,
meters.
that technology, meters exactly, and that technology already have this kind of like a Ethernet over power line, but not like in your home, but like through like a power line from home to the station. So I was helping to set these things up. It was kind of like some of element of this SCADA system,
Okay.
plus some of the element where I also like using their APIs to program something in order, because the standard app couldn't do this, but we needed this customization for supporting these customers. And my second job afterward, I went to work for the Sberbank. It's a one of the largest banks in Russia. I was working in one of the local kind of offices, and I was making Perl scripts.
Oh,
Like
wow.
you can call it DevOps these days, but this Perl
Right. Right.
script, it was creating inventory of computers on the network. Plus, it collected some of the logs. It was Unix machines. Um, and they were collecting logs and doing kind of like a log crunching and like a log rotation type of routines, and also got paid for that. And same time started learning like a .NET. um, we were the we were most of the time when we're learning like C++, we consider this kind of like a hardcore. We need to go to hardcore. Like everyone who, and we were like a Visual Studio guys, and
Okay.
the Visual Studio guys, they despise this like a Borland C++ guys, because the Borland C++ people, they were just like dragging and dropping these the forms, the double clicking, and after that they writing kind of like the Delphi style C++,
Oh, sure, 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 sure.
because it basically depend on the visual component library VCL from Delphi, and just had like a C++ API. And but like we were hardcore, we just programming in the Windows API, and like our apps were smaller because we didn't use this like statically linked the VCL library, because we depend on only like a runtime library that already shipped with operating system, that
Sure.
so our app can be run everywhere and it's pretty small. And over the time, like I started learning, hey, it's not the point, because like we can do this the stuff by running to the sizes of these apps, but like we need to do things. And this is how I started learning like C sharp and .NET, where
Okay.
I guess that time it was .NET 1.1, and WinForms was also getting this like visual editor, and the language was nice.
You're
And after
older
that I
than you
learned,
let on. That's,
yeah.
just to be clear. But
And after that I actually like learned that hey, like why you living in this shell of Microsoft? There's totally different world. There was one teacher. He was I really like him. He was I don't know why he was doing. He was kind of like a at that time I didn't know why he was doing. He was he was doing very well. He was working on the local like the metal steel factory. He was like a director of something like automation, whatever. Smart guy, but and this is why he only can teach on Saturday. So we had some classes on Saturdays, and at the time I didn't know like why he using his time on Saturdays to
okay.
teach us something called Java.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's showing something called Eclipse. Like, but like he didn't have any problems if we will write the same stuff, because he was essentially teaching us the object-oriented programming. We can still use like C sharp in doing this, but like he's showing like a Java thing, and like I was like, Java, like what is that? And this is how I end up in the Java world in the Eclipse version 2.
Oh my.
And after that I learned that okay, there's stuff that is free, there's open
Right.
source, there's there's no Microsoft in the Java world that can give you all the tooling, the people developing tooling for themselves. There's Sun, a company that developed this Java thing. There's IBM, that company that also doing something with Java, and IBM seems to have a nice tooling. And this is how I uh, this is how I end up in Eclipse and
Sure.
the like IBM rational developer studios and things like that. It's
Bad.
quite long the walk on the memory lane, but the rest is history. Since I'm exclusively Java guy since what 2000 2006, I guess,
Okay.
when I went to Moscow and I start working on my postdoc. um, and I met the professor, and I told him like, yeah, I'm like Microsoft guy, and he said, yeah, this is not gonna fly here. Like we are have a like very good because like I went to a university that was in a very good connections with Russian railways,
Okay.
and the Russian railways were heavily automated by IBM stuff. And he said, no, like Microsoft, we're not gonna fly. So IBM, WebSphere, all things like mainframes, and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, since then, like Java, man.
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned that because my undergrad I did in C++, and I have never written a line of C++ in anger. Almost my entire career has been on Java.
Yeah,
There's very small smatterings of other stuff, and I think I came out just around the time where some schools were maybe kicking over to Java, but even that was fairly
yeah,
rare. It was still a lot of C, C++, things of that nature. So it's always interesting to kind of see that sort of path that we all take to get to this point. But
yeah, yeah. And right now, I feel it's not about language per se. You know, it's about like expressing certain idioms and patterns and certain architectural ideas.
right,
And really doesn't matter what kind of language you use for if you I guess that this is where like some of the consultant mindset that came into play.
Oh, sure.
When you are a consultant, you are expected to know like technology like very well, and there's different consultants and different qualities of consultants. But like the the mentality of consultancy that I inherit when I get into states and I work in the company that we're working in the consultancy world like exclusively for like 5 years. And one of the mentality that I learned is kind of you either be an expert on the thing or just like a GTFO. So some of this self education, some of the go into classes, like learn from the people, like the reading the books or reading the blog posts and building stuff most importantly. So understanding how the things work, I think it's a huge benefit to like not necessarily like understanding how everything through the transistors and other stuff work, but at least understanding how the operating system work, how they operate with conceptually
Right, right.
operate with the hardware, how everything's tied together, all these like layers of abstraction, so it will not be scary thing or whatnot.
Yeah, well, I think you're hitting at a couple of really important points there. One is languages are just tools, and I think
Yep.
where some developers get really caught up is, well, I'm a blank programmer, and this is the only tool that I'll ever use. But they're just, it's like saying I'm only ever going to use one hammer for a home improvement project. There are
Or like
different
one
hammers for different
Phillips,
problems.
yeah, one
Right,
Phillips screwdriver.
right, exactly. There's different screwdrivers for a reason. There's different tools for a reason, and I think that's what separates the sort of I'm just getting started in this, and I've got some experience, is to know when to pick up which tool. And
Yeah.
so I think that's an important part of this as well. Now, the other
So this,
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
so that's why I think I never was kind of like a part of this like religious like flame wars against one language against another.
Right.
I like pick up the Scala guys time to time,
Oh, sure.
but just because I like them. But in general, yeah, that's that's not the point. Like if you are understand how the thing works, and you just need to learn and spend some time to learn maybe some of the idiomatic things, right?
Sure.
Around how to do like what's the essence, because the languages, they are, by the end of the day, it's the way how you express means what they want the computer to do for you.
Right.
And some of the language is different from others because of the certain like interesting constructs, right? So the people develop those languages not because they were bored. Some of them are, but um, but we're talking about like real programming languages, like the that needs to be created to do certain purpose.
Sure.
So that's why like certain things that can be done like extremely easy in Scala will require some time and verbosity of Java, even though like right now the Java also like moving fairly well, and it has a all expressiveness of any modern language. So yeah, it's just a tool,
Right.
and having the good tools in your tool belt, this is what the professional does,
Right.
even if it requires you to write JavaScript.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even if the the other thing that you're driving at that I think is really important is it's important that you understand sort of one layer of abstraction beneath the one you're using. And I do think that that's one of the interesting outcomes of sort of that traditional computer science background is having a little bit of grounding in compiler theory and operating system in different languages. And I do think some developers miss out on that. They get so locked in on, well, I'm just dragging and dropping these forms, or I'm working at this level of abstraction, that when it breaks, or how you get beneath that to do something that level of abstraction doesn't let you do. It's one of the challenges I think of software.
It's I think it also comes from the consultancy experience. So like if I would go there and see the customers and I'm selling them, or like not selling them, I will already someone already sold them, and I need to help them to install say Kafka. I was working for over a year as architect, meaning that I was going there either help with installation or help to have a like custom installation of certain components. and like, or help to investigate certain problems with the system, or like they say, oh, it's slow. That's typical question from the customer, like system is slow, and now it's your task
Sure. Fix it.
as a consultant, as an expert, not only fix it, but like come into the point where we need to figure out what is slow. We need
Right.
to figure out like what they mean by slow.
Right.
um it's and this is where your point of understanding level abstraction is people asking, oh, like, why I need to care about all this like performance things in Java, like profiling, like all this, or like maybe tracing, or like debugging, or how I can understand this, or like how why it is important, like how all these things while affecting some of the low level things, like why the processor is spiking, or why is IO is just like so high, and all these things. Yes, you might don't need this in on a day one,
Right.
but relying or like trying to go, oh, okay, so I hit this block, I would just copy paste this stack trace into Google or Stack Overflow and ask other people to figure out.
Right.
I think this is kind of like a very slippery slope to go. uh, you know Before that, just try to figure out yourself, like what is going on there, like
Hmm.
why this happen, things happen. Like I was building a demo, and I was like hearing this null pointer exception in the library. As a matter of fact, it was a Spring Cloud stream. um, and no, it was not Spring Cloud, it was like even lower, it was on the Spring Kafka. And I found that for some reason this application context was not injected properly, so that's why it was null pointer exception. I was thinking, okay, so I can try to fix this myself, but let me check if the other people already fixed that, because it was a few releases back, and I took a snapshot, and apparently in the snapshot was fixed. Um, Sometimes the way how you find this problem, you can copy paste the stack overflow,
Right.
the stack trace, and find yourself if someone else already tried to do that. Or you open the issue and you investigate. But I could definitely fix this myself, like just going like up to stack and figure out why the application context was not injected. So this is why, like, I really appreciate libraries like Spring, for example, because there's so much engineering time spent on building this library, and still there are a lot of layers. And many people actually scared of these layers, so that's why I
Sure.
consider those as kind of magic. And people saying, "Oh, I hate Spring." Do not hate Spring. Like, hate yourself because you're not curious enough to figure out this. There's no magic.
Right.
We're not.
Right.
It's like it's very slippery slow to go into this like cargo cult and becoming this one kind of the 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 some of the again, I'm watching the rewatching some Star Trek, so I see how they bring in different they every episode they going through the or Star Trek, Stargate, um and they going through the Stargate to the different planets, and the main story is kind of like they are kind of descendants from the people from the Earth, because there's was kind of like an evil race that you know capture people from Earth, and they put them on the different planets. um and they sometimes they bring in different like cultural aspects, and in some planets the people develop faster, some people develop slower, and some people will thinking this like a Stargate is something like a god like thing, and some of the things they understood that this is means of transportation, things like it. Same with Spring, right?
Right.
Like, don't be uh don't hate this because you don't understand this. There's definitely a learning curve. There's a level of abstraction that you need to follow. But once you spend some time to educating yourself about this, you will start appreciating why it was done the way it was done.
Right.
Because it had handles many years or like many engineering hours. Yes, you might end up building this yourself, but will you be able to cover all possible like corner cases that like a
Nope.
community with like thousands of
Right.
developers
Right.
already faced? So
Yeah, the sheer
And
number of developer
I just
hours is
brought this
crazy.
Spring exactly. I just brought the Spring example just because I was just it's my what was the Bayer Meinhof uh, a confirmation bias. Uh,
Sure.
but it would be something that other people are working. It's same thing, you program against the platform. If you don't understand the platform, same thing with like with Kafka. If you using Kafka, you don't understand fully platform, you might be making some mistakes
Hmm.
that if you would spend some time to a little bit learning a little bit more, you will understand that there's intention on certain things and how they were done.
Right.
So
Right.
I totally agree with your idea about understand this level of abstraction. Few levels. Don't need to understand TCP IP stack if you building a web service, even though sometimes it's good to understand.
Right. Right.
Or at least understand HTTP, how HTTP works, because HTTP doing a great job like hiding some of the abstraction of the of TCP for you. Like if you're building like a RESTful web services, understand how HTTP works, how these like payload works, how the what kind of modes available, what's the response response codes mean, and how to properly send correct responses and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing to see how our sort of Lego blocks have gotten bigger. If you go back early enough in computer science, you needed to build your own hardware, write your own operating system, write your own compiler, write your own language. And we have more abstractions now, which is good, but you also still need to appreciate that there are things underlying that. And I do think in general that sort of, I guess, democratization of the technology is good, and it frees us from having to know some of that lower level stuff. But to your point, you can't be afraid of it, because there are times where you
Yeah,
have to dip in there and see what's going on.
yeah, exactly. And it's but there's also, apart from understanding level of abstraction, sometimes people asking like why I need to learn history.
Sure.
Like when you go for computer science, you still need to have some history classes and things like that. But there's history in computer science as well.
Mm-hmm.
You think about this, like the
Oh,
people
we're
just get
terrible
excited
at that.
about.
Terrible at that. This industry. We suck at learning from our
Yeah,
history.
exactly. People get excited about the like gRPC, super excited. And like people who were here 10, 15, 20 years ago and saying, yeah, those kids invented Corba. Welcome to my world.
No, we're great
The
at that. We
code generation. There's a kind of like underlying like binary protocol. There's stubs that look like
no,
EGBs.
this
Corba.
industry is infamous for reinventing something that's already been here, renaming it, and then pretending no one's ever done anything like this ever before. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's the nature of the beast.
Like just like yeah, just um we go in through the world like, okay, so we have a super fast the protocols that run binary, and we need to build kind of like a remote procedure called about. Now it was too difficult because we cannot understand what is going on there. Okay, let's introduce something like the web services and SOAP, and we'll start pushing like XML because we can read XML. XML looks like a cool and it's parsable, but hey, we actually don't read that much XML anymore. uh,
Thank
so what
God.
about the JSONs? Yeah, what
Right.
about JSON? And like, okay, so we went to the world with JSON, and again, we're turning JSON into the also something big,
Of course.
and we start. I was watching this presentation by Martin Thompson. He was talking about the protocols, like concept of the protocols, and how we end up in the world that in order to do cross computer communication, cross process communication, we end up with the protocol that sending it was invented to send documents and pictures back and forth. It's like
Right.
how we build up this level of abstraction on top of this HTTP protocol and all this kind of RPC mechanism and all this kind of weird stuff with the you know the long polling to emulate like a server side push. And
Yes.
after that, we layered something on top of it. And after that, okay, oh, let's invent something cool that allows us to run this payload bidirectionally using like binary protocol. And this is how we end up in WebSockets because previously, WebSockets run on top of TCP, not
Right.
HTTP, and it's like bidirectional protocol. And it's a if you um, if you learn a little bit of history of computer science, it's exactly as you said. We notoriously ignoring the lessons of the history that happens before.
100%.
Um, so yeah, that's fun part of
It keeps us
um,
young.
yeah,
It's like
exactly.
Berglund. He clearly has some kind of a moisturizing routine to look as young as he does, given how old he is.
Oh yes, oh
But
yes,
yeah.
and the push-ups and Pilates.
So that does lead me to my next question to transition a little bit here. But so I know you're working out. I know that about you. But are there any quarantine habits you've picked up that you really hope you can maintain once we're allowed to go visit fun places again?
Um, so I kind of like not to cancel, but fully, but at least I reduced significantly my presence in the gym. So I built my home gym
Yeah,
now. It's on my right now. It's in on my backyard, not backyard, even like on a deck. But like I'm ready to transition to my back to garage because when the quarantine started, I was working out the garage, and when the weather permits, I was working out outside.
sure.
So I developed this. mm, I did have a habit to go into gym, but now I even kind of went a little bit further, so I don't need to go to gym to go to work out. I can do this at my home, and everything's fine. I think this is the still continues, and like my gym is not only kind of the jumping rope and concept to rowing machine. I got the barbell, I got the weights, kettlebells, like all 9 yards, and I'm planning to order like a rack, and this rack allows me to also do some cool stuff like heavy squats, for example, like
You're a
bench
brave
press.
man to do that at home. I don't know. I've given up the hardcore leg day. That's way in my past, man. You know,
And I think the um when we get back and travel, when I was traveling, I always carried around some of the the means of like a personal hygiene and like all these things with the sanitizers and like wash your hands and mask and things. They were not. I was accustomed to those. There was always like some of the the sanitizing wipes always in my
sure,
bag. Some of the uh, like flushable seats for toilets, for example, is always in my bag. They some other things like that people somehow start only thinking right now, like washing your hands like for 20 seconds. Yeah, I'm in a public place.
right,
I do not like walk in my house in shoes that I was in outside. Um, so those are, and plus comparing the talking about the some of the like content creation and then things that we do right now. I think my current setup, even though it's kind of crazy right now, it's still portable. I when I developed this setup, I still have a travel in mind, so I can get back to work to travel and also continue to do this online thing. Since I
sure.
developed this online thing with the some of the online shows like live streams and
Yeah, I clearly have some things to
every
learn
Tuesday
from
on
you.
the Confluent channel.
What's
Say again?
that? Sorry.
I was like, watch me every Tuesday on the youtube.com/confluent.
Not a
Uh,
boy. Well,
that's how we do it.
we'll have to compare notes because I clearly have a long way to go to get my setup to even a tenth of the coolness that you've got. So now that this is clearly going to be an ongoing concern, I have more interest in actually investing in it. When I thought this was maybe only going to last a few months, I wasn't super worried about it. But now that this has become kind of
I
the new normal,
I can I probably need to refresh it. So, but like a few months ago, I recorded a like live stream when I was breaking up my setup. I think I need to do refresher slightly. Some of the things slightly changed in terms of my setup. Like for example, there's like another there should be where's the like another
oh,
camera
that's right.
angle
Look at
that
this guy.
available.
Look at this guy.
Kind of I can switch in this is the camera angle was developed so I can read the comments that they comment on this screen, so I can be maintaining eye contact with audience and also
Exactly.
reading some of the comments. So And some other things like to bring in some of the slides into some effects. I'm not going crazy with effects. For example, like I'm not doing like sound effects right now. I'm just doing even though I think I think this would be next thing to do.
There you go. There you go. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, so you've got a program on Tuesdays. What else you got? Where else can we see more Victor all the time?
The one program that I'm doing on official Confluent channel where I'm talking about all things stream processing Kafka. It's on YouTube/Confluent every Tuesday.
Nice.
It is a 9 a.m. Pacific time. Every Wednesday, I'm actually teaming up with my friend Sergey Gorov from Pivotal, and we just like crashing some of the code. We're talking about all things around also Kafka, cloud, test containers, some Java, reactive Java. We recorded a few episodes
Heck yeah.
live. We're talking about some of the like reactive stack, Project Reactor. We start talking about Kubernetes. Like last episode, we were talking about things like how to deploy Spring Boot app using Scaffold, for
Okay.
example, which is a tool that for deploying and deploying apps in Kubernetes. It's Wednesday, 10 a.m. on Pacific time. Apart from that, I am around the world in whatever conference accepting my talks. I'm continuing to do meetups and conference presence. My next conference will be this Thursday. It's in Memory Computing Summit, where I will be talking about cloud native future of Kafka. So I think a few seats available if you're in this type of jazz. So hit them up. It's in Memory Computer Summit, and I think this year they're also doing this for free. So
Awesome. Well, that's great. I'm actually assigning one of your talks from Spring One to my grad students in a couple of weeks. So I'm
oh,
excited
thank
to,
you.
yeah,
That's great.
excited to see them
Thank you.
crank through that. So, uh,
I am I'm working tomorrow. Tomorrow is gonna be a big day.
okay.
Tomorrow I'm doing a live stream where we're doing kind of like a Halloween special,
Ooh,
and we got the requests from my Spring One workshop. Like apart from the talk, I did the workshop.
yeah.
It's kind of like a hands-on microservices using Kafka Streams, Spring Boot, and the Confluent Cloud, and we got like a very overwhelming response. We only could accommodate like 100 people
Right.
through the platform to do workshop, but like we had like a 500 people sign up for wait list. So we decided to do this. Let's do this Halloween special
Oh,
of
heck
the
yeah.
live streams where I will be teaching the Spring Boot and Kafka and all this stuff. Like it's going to be like a 2.5 hours, like
Heck
public.
yeah.
Everyone can join. It's going to be YouTube. I'm not that cool to do on Twitch yet, but YouTube.
I'm not.
YouTube.
That's clearly, I'm not. I thought maybe my 13-year-old would be a little impressed that I'm on Twitch, and he's just like, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, but that's he's a teenager, so nothing I do can be cool. That's okay. I'm
uh,
fine with that. No, it's all good. It's all good.
so yeah, that's I think I'm pretty excited about this. Like right after this show, I will continue to prep for this, and it's gonna be pretty exciting. And I'm very looking forward to this live stream.
Outstanding. Well, Victor, thank you so much for hanging out with me, my friend. I appreciate it. I miss seeing you, man. I really do. And I can't wait to hopefully in the semi near future get back on the road and hang out with my friends.
Same
So
here. I really excited. Thanks so much for inviting me. Like anytime. Mondays usually it's quite easy for me. So like
outstanding.
invite me anytime. So I will
Well,
be
I,
here.
I
We can
might have
chat
to
about
call
it.
you in on that. We'll see what happens. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I've
absolutely.
scheduled that into the middle of January, but we'll
Sure.
see
Yeah.
what happens. But
And like we're looking for some comments from the audience. If we talk about something that caught your interest, let us know.
absolutely. Well, Victor, thank you again, my friends. And to everybody, we'll be off next week, but we're back, I think, the week after with Brian Sletton, if my memory serves. But, it's too early in the morning for me to be able to put all these pieces together. I've already had a busy day. But again, thank you so much, Victor. And thanks to all of you that are watching us, and have a great rest of your day.
And as always, have a nice day. Bye.
Exactly. Cheers.